Hey everybody, I'm Charting Man Dan with the chart guys. I've got some bright sunshine in my face, but after 12 degrees yesterday, I'm gonna take it. We're gonna check it on crypto. My internet's a little bit wonky. Not good. I might have to just record this. We're gonna try and power through, but I might just have to record this. It's been a little bit off today. We're gonna check it on Bitcoin, Ethereum. Are we forming weekly bear flags? What is tax loss harvesting? Does that impact things in the short term? We'll check out a couple of altcoins that are our lead bulls, certainly not many of them. And I'm very close to being wrong about my prediction of the MSTR relative, or I should say the premium bottom being in for the year. We'll check in on that as well. Learn how to trade stocks, crypto, and hype sectors with a global chat room led by professional traders, as well as daily live streams at chartguys.com. So as always, thanks for the likes and the shares. And I'll keep an eye on my dropped frames. But we've got the NASDAQ has been pulling back for a few days, and we're actually testing the low of the day right now. And with this pullback, we are shaping up the potential of an equilibrium. We had our all-time high, our significant pullback on the weekly time frame. Our weekly lower high was set, and now bulls are hoping for a weekly higher low to keep tightening up. But the NASDAQ bulls have been rejecting from 4-hour EMA 12 the last couple of attempts and have been unable to set a daily higher low. We ran straight up. We didn't build a whole lot of support on the way up. Now the retracement's fairly significant. And we'll see where we go from here. It reminds me, honestly, this current move reminds me a good bit of this. Do we bounce and confirm a downtrend like this, or how does it? I need to reboot my modem. All right, Bitcoin. Weekly time frame. Potential bear flag, absolutely. Our mindset was this is a potential daily rising wedge because every time we got a bull break on this bounce, we went straight into consolidation. That is not how you want to see a reversal. When you see a reversal, you want to confirm the trend change and follow through. Every bull break led to a temporary top. And so now we're just testing the lows. I still have my swing position on, even though there are red flags. Why wouldn't I just sell my long position if I was recognizing the red flags that were taking place? Number one, my game plan is still valid. We haven't hit my stop level. And I have learned many times in my career, sometimes it'll save me, and I will sometimes react to new information outside of the game plan, but never with a full position. I won't fully exit a trade unless my thesis is invalidated. And there have been plenty of times where I have been 90% sure I was going to stop out of a trade, and it turns around and works out. And that's just fine. So I am going to keep letting it play out. If 80,000 breaks, I will stop out, break even. And that's the other reason I'm letting it play out. I did sell a partial amount, so it's just, I'm not risking anything at this point. But we've got our base of support in the low 80s. We now have a wall of resistance in the 94s, and it's not looking good for the bulls. They aren't proving anything. We continue to see relative weakness compared to the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ obviously has been weak, like we just looked at. And so what would it take for things to significantly turn around? In my opinion, it would require the NASDAQ setting a higher low and then trying to have that Santa rally the end of December heading back up towards all-time highs. If the NASDAQ doesn't head back up towards all-time highs, it's hard to imagine how Bitcoin's going to turn around and head back up to 100,000. So I do believe that the NASDAQ has to shift to help the crypto bulls, but at this point it's just backs against the wall, playing some defense against this support, currently a daily inside bar. And again, just bears are comfy. You just look at this chart and say, all right, if you're a bear, are you worried about anything? And the answer is no. If you get over 94,000 and turn that into support, then we start to, if I'm a bear, then we start to shift perspective a bit. But for now, bears are comfy. ETH didn't have a rising wedge because we had follow through here, but we were keeping an eye out for a potential head and shoulders. This was a very quick little dinky right shoulder, but a quick lower high and lower low there, rejecting from weekly EMA 12 on its bounce. And absolutely a possible bear flag. We got to hold the lows and break the high of the bounce if we're going to shift momentum at all. And ETHBTC has been weak as well. This is a red flag. The head and shoulders confirmed on ETHBTC as well. Daily downtrend confirmed there. Weekly lower high set. So if we are going to see a significant shift on ETHBTC, we have to see a weekly trend change to bulls now. Because we know bigger picture, bulls are hoping for the first monthly uptrend on ETHBTC in years. But in order to do that, we have to see the weekly trend change. So again, with where we stand, bears don't need to see anything. Just keep going as it's going. Bulls have to see the change in character of the price action in terms of what we've been seeing over the last few weeks. And it's also worth noting that the weekly lower high being set in crypto is aligning, I pointed out in other streams, risk on. I've got a risk on group in markets, which are quantum, robotics, rare earth, and crypto. And they were all doing the same thing. They all had this big month plus drop, this couple of week bounce, and the weekly lower highs are set. Here's IONQ, sure looks a lot like Bitcoin. Quantum. Here's robotics RR, sure looks a lot like IONQ. Here's rare earth USAR, sure looks a whole lot like Bitcoin and robotics and quantum. They're all doing the same thing. It is a risk-on sector that saw a bounce. We knew weekly lower highs were the result of that bounce. We didn't know if it's going to be a weekly bear flag or not. Now all those weekly lower highs are set. Bear flags are on the table. And the next 2 weeks are going to tell us whether or not bears can confirm those bear flags. But again, it's just notable to me that Bitcoin and crypto are doing the exact same thing as all these other things. So for me, when I'm analyzing the market from a bird's eye view, I'm looking at the financial sector, the healthcare sector, the semiconductors. That's what's going on. Why is Bitcoin so weak? That's too zoomed in my opinion. The question isn't why is Bitcoin so weak, it's why is risk on so weak? Why is it this group of dozens of stocks across multiple subsectors, why are they all doing the same thing and why are they weak? And it's partly because we've been seeing a bit of a shift into defensive names, whether it's healthcare, financial sector. How are utilities doing? Nah, we're not rotating into utilities. But anyways, it was risk on when all these things were ripping hundreds of %. It was risk off for a couple of months. It was risk back on for a couple of weeks. And looking at the IONQ chart here on the weekly time frame, best case for bulls, confirm a weekly uptrend, fend off the weekly bear flag. IONQ at least has a lower wick from today's action. Every name that's in that grouping is hoping that they can see a similar lower wick to try and set a weekly higher low. And again, I watch these risk on names and how they correlate with the NASDAQ, and all of them need the NASDAQ to form this higher low real soon as we battle the low of the day on the NASDAQ during regular trading hours, low of the day. So that's my view of the markets as a whole. Crypto is just one little piece of it. All right, let's talk about tax loss selling. Appreciate the likes. Ask questions. I'll read them in just a bit. All right, tax loss harvesting. Tax loss harvesting is prominent into the end of the year, generally speaking, when you have a bullish macro environment where you can look around and say, most people have gains on the year. Whether it's in their IRA, the S&P 500 up double-digit percent, the NASDAQ up double-digit percent. Most people in markets are green on the year. And so, if I'm green on the year and my only red position is crypto, and we need to distinguish because crypto doesn't have wash sales in the US at this point, which means I can just sell Bitcoin, my red position, lock in that loss, and then rebuy it right away. But let's just get through the point. I'm up $100,000 on the year. I'm down $10,000 in Bitcoin. I'm going to sell Bitcoin, eat that loss. Now I'm only paying taxes on $90,000 of capital gains instead of $100,000 of capital gains. I'm just lowering my tax bill. Because if I then go into next year and I take that Bitcoin $10,000 loss, I can only write off $3,000 of that. So it's a wasted loss, and then unless I make other gains at that point. So that's what tax loss harvesting is. Not really relevant in crypto, but certainly relevant in crypto stocks. The majority of crypto stocks are red on the year. And so again, we've been seeing crypto making its way towards traditional finance with these ETFs and these stocks. And so again, if you've got, well, it doesn't matter in the IRA in terms of harvesting. If you got an individual broker, you've got gains on the year, you've got red crypto stock positions, you're selling them to lower your tax bill. That's what a lot of people are doing. So how do I use that information is, Chart Gal, Lori, and myself and others, as we get to the last week of December, we start looking around. What names are real beat up that are red on the year, that are in some extremes, and we look for potential short-term bounces to align with the end of the year because we assume, okay, the year is now over, so some of that selling pressure is going to be alleviated. It's almost like a culmination of selling into that last couple of weeks, and then much less supply and selling potentially in the first couple of weeks of the new year. So names like MSTR, I am watching for that potentially to be a setup. So MSTR, I made the prediction that MSTR divided by Bitcoin was likely bottoming for the year, and I'm about to be proven wrong. I'm not wrong yet, but I'm about to be wrong. If we drop to a lower low on MSTR divided by Bitcoin, MSTR had a bounce, daily uptrend confirmed with zero follow through, and it's a weekly bear flag, just like all the things we mentioned. Same big drop, same couple, but this is even weaker just because it's much closer to confirming the weekly bear flag than many other of the risk on names. So I'm on the verge of being wrong. I'll definitely raise my hand and admit it if and when it's official. Other crypto stocks, BMNR. Again, you just look at this chart and say, okay, who out of BMNR holders is in the red? And you look at the current price and all the prices that have traded and you say, oh, the vast majority. Anybody that bought in here is red. So is that a tax loss harvesting candidate? Yes, it is. Weekly lower high set. We would have to set the higher low and change the trend to negate that bear flag. But again, just as an example, BMNR, to confirm the weekly bear flag, needs to drop another 21%. MSTR, to confirm the weekly bear flag, needs to drop 5%. So it's much more likely for MSTR to break support than BMNR, just with where they are currently positioned. So keep an eye on that for stock. Honestly, the first half of my trading career, I would play off support. I would look for support to hold. I would look for double bottoms. Second half of my trading career, I look for the liquidity grabs to make entries. I look for the flags that confirm with no follow through. So honestly, I'd like to see MSTR break 155.61 into the end of the year with a lack of follow through. Then I'd be interested in it as a tax loss harvesting bounce play. So we'll see if we get that or not. But just on the radar, again, we got 2 weeks left. So next week, or maybe over this weekend, is when I start narrowing things down. What am I watching for this kind of setup? What do I want to see? if this trade's going to come to me and it's a good risk reward setup that I like. Haven't done my planning yet, but I will be this weekend. All right, some of the altcoins that are standing out stronger, XMR. XMR weekly EMA 12 rider. And there are slim to no crypto names riding weekly EMA 12. We closed right on it here. Hold. We closed right on it. Simple statement is if weekly EMA 12 is support, the bulls are in full control. This is a bit of an equilibrium currently forming where we have our high, low, lower high, higher low. So it's all about 442 resistance in the short term. Outperforming Bitcoin on the year, XMR BTC is currently testing the highest levels that we've seen in 2 years. So we can say XMR is the strongest it's been compared to Bitcoin in 2 years. That's a pretty significant statement. The only other altcoins that I'm watching that are standing out stronger, BCH is another one. It's losing a little momentum. But again, there aren't many. BCH must hold 443 because if we lose that level, it's a monthly downtrend confirming. If we hold that level, it's healthy monthly consolidation. And obviously, bulls need some Bitcoin help here. We're in a daily downtrend. We're in a sideways choppy weekly range. We're right in the middle of this range. 443, so we're $100 off the low. We're $100 below resistance. We're literally right in the middle of this range. But again, one of the few names that we're keeping an eye on the long side of things that are standing out stronger. Most names, as we know, are standing out weaker. Lots of multi-month lows, some names hitting multi-year lows. So, got to prove it for the bulls, and obviously, that starts with Bitcoin. So again, what do we have to see? We need NASDAQ daily higher low at a minimum. If we get a NASDAQ daily higher low and a decent couple day bounce, then maybe Bitcoin and Ethereum can start attempting a weekly higher low. But the simple statement on these charts is if the bounce highs remain, bears have nothing to worry about. So Bitcoin needs a 10% move to the upside for bears to even start to think about a shift or being concerned about bearish positions. So that's my approach to the crypto space right now. And again, one of the major shifts over the last few years is the fact that crypto is not giving volatility that cannot be found elsewhere. I've made this point many times. I'm not going to keep beating a dead horse, but if the quantum names in the US that are fee-free are giving me the same, if not greater percentage moves and doing the same thing on the chart that crypto is doing, why would I be on a crypto exchange paying the fees, trading crypto? There's no reason. So again, that's a factor as well as I'm watching these correlations. You know, should I be focusing on crypto more? It's just doing the same thing as all these other volatile names? No, don't have an interest. And honestly, it's less volatile. It's less volatile than the rare earth names. It's less volatile, even the altcoins. They're less volatile than all these other things. USAR, rare earth, plus 220% in 6 weeks. Minus 74% in 6 weeks, plus 66% in 3 weeks. And you know quantum, even more so, thousands of percent moves. So anyways, that's a lot of the reason why, in my opinion, normalization of crypto, liquidity increasing, volatility decreasing. But you gotta bring something to the table. Just imagine, I'm a trader walking down a market and everybody's got their booths set up. Different sectors, different markets have their booths set up and they want my attention. They want my volume, my trading, my volatility. They want that. And they're trying to bring me over. What's on the, okay, I know the fundamental backdrop is for the purpose of Bitcoin, why people like it, but from a trading perspective, why would I go to the Bitcoin and the crypto table over any of these other tables? And there isn't a good reason right now. And for there to be a good reason, it has to be doing things that other markets and sectors are not doing. And it hasn't done that in a very long time. Probably in years, 3-4 years. All right, read in the chat room. I don't use the 100-week EMA, so you tell me what happens every time it hits. SPY, you want to be on the weekly time frame. It's just a weekly tightening range. The big question is, can bears confirm the weekly downtrend or not? If we don't confirm the weekly downtrend, bulls keep full control. If we do, got to be cautious because weekly downtrends have preceded the significant periods of consolidation, including the 2022 bear market. I'm going to do a long-term patterns video at the end of this year. I've been doing those every quarter. IBIT and Bitcoin seem to correlate better than BMNR and ETH. Absolutely, they do. And the reason is they're different instruments. One's an ETF and one's a stock. Those are two very different things. The ETF, by its design, is programmed to track Bitcoin. BMNR is not. BMNR just trades based on buying and selling, supply and demand. The ETF will track Bitcoin regardless of that. Significant supply and demand can shift that correlation a bit, but the goal of the ETF is at the end of every day to be tracking what Bitcoin is doing. They're different instruments with different purposes. So your observation is definitely correct. What's up, Tom? Same to you. Tesla's definitely a top watch for me. In fact, I want to check in on it. Battling 480s. I've been watching the Tesla monthly cup and handle for a while now. Tesla's definitely a 2026 top watch. Is MSTR going for a weekly super stack? We would need a big drop down, but it is on the table. I mean, we would need to confirm the weekly bear flag in a straight daily drop from here. Possible, for sure. Daniel's making the shift to other markets. I agree. I mean, again, it's not just, ditch crypto. It's just get comfortable in all different markets so you bounce around to the opportunity. I'm back to trading cannabis stocks for the first time meaningfully, well, this year. But before this year, I didn't trade it for years. You just go when there's opportunity. Catalyst, volume, volatility, great. I'm in. All right, that's gone. Now I'm going somewhere else. Just bouncing around wherever the opportunity is. Thanks, Jason. Glad to help. One note I posted on Twitter, I shifted. I got 3 monitors, main monitor, and it used to be chat room and broker. And I switched my 2 monitors because I started to feel just a little tension in my back right here. And it's just because I was favoring these 2 monitors more. And so I switched my monitors around. So now I'm going to be favoring this one a bit more. In an ideal world, ideally, if you're a setup similar, you're shifting things every couple of months. I had let it go too long before I've shifted. That's some little full-time trader knowledge you don't really think about. definitely easier to feel secure trading the ETFs on a broker versus the crypto platforms that have much less history. I'm long silver, bullish gold. Again, weekly EMA12. I've been saying the same thing literally over a year. If weekly EMA12 is support, the bulls have full control. We haven't lost weekly EMA12. We keep going up. If you want to make trading and technical analysis as simple as possible, you make a definitive statement like that, and that means you don't have to think. So if my approach to gold is if weekly EMA12 is support, nothing changes, I literally don't have to think about anything at any point the entirety of 2025. You just hold a long position because there has been no reason to exit. And so for me, I was doing that with silver, but on the monthly time frame to give it a longer leash. If monthly EMA12 is support, I'm holding this position. And I've been holding this silver position for over a year and a half at this point. And if we keep up this euphoria, I will sell into the strength. I'm not going to wait to lose monthly EMA12 and wait for a 40% drop. But that's the simple statement that has kept me in the position through some pretty solid pullbacks. And guess what? Remember Bitcoin monthly? That's key for me, and we just lost it. That is a significant red flag. First time losing monthly EMA12 after holding it monthly times, multiple times. First time losing it in 2 years. And again, even if the bulls do take back over and head back over 100,000, we are going to have to be cautious of a monthly head and shoulders. MSOS looking good. What is a weekly super stack? Google chart, guys, super stack. On our website, there's an indicator page and there's a little video on it. Question for tax loss harvesting. So wash sale rules. There's no wash sale rules with crypto. I can sell Bitcoin and buy it right back and lock in that loss. There are wash sale rules with stocks if you're not on trader tax status. I'm on trader's tax status, being a full-time trader, so I don't have, wash selling's not a thing for me. And when my current CPA made that switch from my uninformed CPA, I got 6 figures back from the IRS. Yeah, the Irish Republican Army sent me a 6-figure check. Can you imagine that? Your CPA missing out on 6 figures? 6-figure mistake? Anyways, wash sale. Yes, you got to wait 30 days after, I forget if it's after your sell or into the new year. You got to wait through January before you can rebuy it again. Because if I sell December 30th and rebuy January 2nd, it doesn't count. They're going to put that loss on 2026's books. You got to understand wash trading. There are a lot of people who've put themselves in significant tax trouble by not understanding that concept. Because again, if I'm up $600,000 and I've got a 300,000 red position, if I sell it here, my taxes are cut in half. If I sell it here, I can offset 300,000 to the prior year, and now I've got 297,000 that I can't do anything with. The only thing I can benefit from is just make more gains, and that will offset them. But what if I don't make more gains? Then it's just a wasted loss. Trading for an individual account or LLC, everybody's different. There are some people where it makes sense for an LLC, and there's some people where it makes sense not to be an LLC. Gotta at least have a conversation with a CPA and make sure your CPA knows about trading. I have the benefit where my CPA is a Chart Guys member and started that way. So, okay, you trade stuff and you're a CPA, I want to work with you. Yeah, Bitcoin Daily Super Stack was the last one that we had. That's where I bought 82, sell some into the bounce, stop under 80. That's how I positioned for the current bounce attempt. Yeah, wash sales are brutal. All right, let's check back in. NASDAQ is a potential bear flag, but still battling. This is the screen I stare at every day. It gives me the overview. Right now on this screen, I can see what healthcare is doing, the financial sector, the semiconductors, big tech. I can see what crypto names are doing. I got some risk-on names. I've got some quantum, some rare earth. I've got cannabis. I've got metals. I've got oil, IWM. It's just an overview of what's going on in the market. Lots of flashing numbers. But once you get used to looking at this, I can tell what's going on very quickly, and this is what helps me. When I'm watching the major sectors trading right next to each other in the quote box, it helps me easily see correlations. Santa Rally is generally, I forget the exact dates, but it's not yet. Nice little bounce. Tesla's battling its last line in the sand defense for the bears, 480s. All right, I'm going to wrap up here. Figure out my internet situation. Tesla's a top watch. NASDAQ's got to set a daily high or low and get a daily bounce going for the crypto and risk-on names to try and shape up weekly higher lows. Yeah, Super Stack came from my brain. Every indicator that we have at the Chart Guys is just, okay, what do I do with my trading and how can we quantify that into something that's automated to give people a heads up on? And so I was trading Super Stacks long before that indicator existed. Super Stacks made me a bunch of money in crypto in 2017. Super Stacks and backburners. Yeah, any NASDAQ weakness is definitely going to put additional pressure on Bitcoin and MSTR and things like that. IONQ is having a good day, up near that high of the day on this NASDAQ bounce attempt. All right. Thanks again, guys and gals. I'll be back soon. In the meantime, cannabis and Tesla is my focus for the week. Hope you have a great Tuesday evening.